Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Kevin Dolan. My memoir, Little Fag, A Journey of Self-Acceptance and Healing. I'm honored to read Chapter 5. Begins on page 326. The title is Lifting My Spirit by Healing. While on Maui, I just finished a long walking meditation taught to me by a Buddhist monk. I was tired. I had stopped to rest. I was at peace. While resting, I began to remember as a little gay boy sitting in church and listening to the priest say, "God will punish all homosexuals." I felt terrorized. It was less about understanding the word homosexual, although I knew it was me, but more about the hate the priest was spewing. The church was allowed to harm me in the name of God. He punished people like me. During those quiet moments on the beach, I reflected on the depth of the damage done to me by the shame and emotional abuse I experienced in the name of God. I became attuned to the resilience I must have built up in my life. With that, I also remembered the trouble I had with the use of the word God as it was bantered about in all the proceedings with my adult Children of Alcoholics group. As other ACOA participants talked about their belief in God, it was a huge activation or trigger for me. It nearly stopped me from attending meetings. It was nearly the motivation for me to reject a program meant for people of all belief systems. Damn church, damn alcohol, damn Dolans. To stay with the program, I chose to do a number of things. Anytime I listened to someone sharing or reading something that was program-based, I would affirm my own belief by reciting in a mantra-like way, "This program works for me because it's spiritual, not religious." My own creative brilliance, I sensed it vital to allow myself to choose a word that resonated with me as a descriptor when someone said God. Power was the word that came to my heart. This word strengthened my choice to take what I liked and leave the rest when the teaching leaned towards the G word, what I braved. I was on Maui to heal, to mend my heart, and to soothe my soul. I was there again because the energy of the island had previously directed my life. It had taught me how to listen to the divine within me, and now, more than ever, I needed its guidance and energy again. What I wasn't prepared for was discovering that I had a tool in my arsenal of being conscious in my life that would change everything. I committed to a ritual of rising at 5 a.m. Often my body was tired and my ego wanted me to shun another walking meditation on the beach. Yet I felt this inspiration to rise. Years earlier, I was instructed by a Buddhist monk on how to perform a walking meditation, lifting and putting. It's very simple, he suggested. When you lift one foot to walk, recite the word lifting. When you lower that foot, recite the word putting. Repeat the mantra when the other foot lifts and lowers, and so on. It felt like a wonderful pathway to serenity and happiness. It became my go-to meditation technique for long walks and labyrinths, my ritual while on Maui for the month. In time, with some experience, I'd replace the words lifting and putting with here and now, love and trust, yes and yes. I use single-syllable words that all invoke an energy paramount to inspiring me to walk awake in my life. On the Saturday, I met Adam. Everything from the nudge to meditate and the inspiration to sleep on the beach to being awakened twice by his energy left me wide open to knowing I was somehow being taken care of. Trusting was not my forte. Pretending I had life figured out was more my fancy. That Saturday, I was profoundly grateful for all the steps I took in my meditation. Since I was renting a condo in Maui, I had a landline. Before Adam left for the beach that day, he handed me a business card. I called him that night to see if we could share some more time. He was in bed in his hotel room, tired from celebrating his birthday. Perhaps another time were his words. Midweek he called and asked if he could come over. He was living in Honolulu and share a day with me on Saturday. I thought that would be wonderful. We arranged to meet for breakfast. I chose to arrive early so I could position myself to see if the energy I felt when I first met him would be the same. I was not disappointed. As I caught a glimpse of him from afar, I again smiled because I felt the energy I felt when I first met him. My heart smiled. Our conversation was effortless. He listened well. Our conversations were a true dialogue and not the classic monologue I was used to when people told me all about themselves, or I overshared too much about myself. Over the course of our day together, I dove a bit deeper by sharing the motivation I had for closing down my Vancouver-based consulting business. It turned out that my choice to close the business without a go-to source of work was one of Adam's biggest nightmares. He'd later tell me it was one of the criteria for him to begin to feel attracted to me. His judgment was that I was very brave. He'd share heartache over a relationship that had changed for him and the pain he was processing on his journey of healing. Both of us, it seemed, chose authenticity and vulnerability with each other. Both of us chose to be courageous. Our day ended with a beautiful dinner perched above Maui's coastline. The setting sun was our backdrop. Opening our hearts was the theme of our time together. I had not felt so respected in a long time. He would ask to stay with me that night. I surprised myself, and perhaps him, when I said, no, that wouldn't work for me. My time here is not about that. Our time together had been precious, but I'd want him to not spend the night with me. I loved that he asked. Again, I felt this level of respect for the answer, for the no I shared. What I'd not shared with him, which in the grander scale of my healing, had nothing to do with him. It was that I was in relationship that I sensed was in the midst of transition. I was committed to healing my current relationship without getting my heart involved with another. It was not a level of self-respect I was familiar with. I had a history of jumping from one relationship to another without healing. I'd spend the next year getting clear about the dynamics of my current relationship and also make room for learning more about the man I met on Maui. He'd asked several times over the year, without knowing the depth of my pain from my relationship, if I was open to creating a relationship with him. The answer from me was a consistent no, thank you. On some level, I wasn't aware of saying no to his love. I was more aware of wanting to better understand why my current relationship with love felt so painful. It was not an easy commitment to keep. Finally, in a beautiful, truthful, and painful conversation with my current partner, we both admitted to the need to transition our relationship to that of friends. For the level of love I have for him today, it has been one of my greatest life choices. What I braved by finally sharing with my future husband what I'd been healing, which constituted saying no to his relationship desire to me, was choosing to do some deep internal healing. His comment was simple. I respect that you knew you needed to heal that first before saying yes to loving me. That is clarity. From that place of respect, we built our love in this lifetime. The unlearning. Although I intellectually understood the saying, a person without arms can't hug you, it reminded me of how my parents couldn't give me what they didn't have. The dis-ease of alcoholism affected generations of Dolans. It sure as hell did not begin with my father. Perhaps most of my generational family didn't even know they needed to hug or be hugged. Although Hawaii was monumental as a gift in my life, I was at risk of pushing the opportunity away. I've been living from the viewpoint of being a victim. I had been living from the viewpoint of being a victim, and I was attracted by that weakness in my love relationships. Changing that dynamic so I could overcome it could only occur if I knew I was operating from that place. I couldn't give what I did not receive as a child. No one tossed me the Healthy Relationships Rule Book. In fact, that book never existed. Hawaii came with a clean set of energy, one that could inspire me if I so chose to go, letting go of living from a place of surviving and not thriving. From a very early age, my mantra was not to repeat the patterns of my parents or dysfunctional family members. I was constantly on guard, avoiding the feelings of less than and saying, I'll never be like them. Yet I've learned that which you claim you do not want is exactly what shows up. My strategy failed miserably. I had repeated the patterns. Hawaii incited living from the present moment. It encouraged me to energetically let go of the philosophy of living from a place of what not to do. By embracing a life living from what I wanted, I developed a correlation of automatically giving myself the knowledge of living in a better way. I coined the expression and life philosophy of self-full as a way to focus on me. It was my way of breathing life into a strategy of not blaming my family. It inspires me to instead be 100% responsible for showing up in my life. I would forever be able to stop thinking they never gave me what I needed. Perhaps the greatest gift received by living in Hawaii is knowing that it is a way of life and a way of thinking. I've had the privilege of embracing the native Hawaiian concepts of Pono, Aloha, and Ohana. Pono means living with a conscious decision to do the right thing in terms of self, others, and the environment, or here in Hawaii, the aina. I have cultivated and grown into the idea that moral character leads to happiness. Aloha is a mantra or affirmation to live life with love. I've been able to discover that loving me first is the only way to live life. Ohana means family. The word comes from oha, which is from the highly revered taro or kalo plant, and it signifies that all ohana come from the same root. I recognize that all my ancestors came from the same root, and thus we were all part of the same family, or ohana. One of the grandest gifts I opened my heart to, providing myself with support and security, was choosing to be a part of my family, my ohana, the new generations of Dolan. It has provided me with my clearest route to happiness. Noho anu ha'o ole in Hawaiian means good, and it is. The unlearning for me related to my understanding that my parents could not give me what they did not get themselves. Today, with the support of my husband and this amazing energy of Hawaii, I am led in the direction of reparenting myself, taking measures to erase the old tapes in my head and heart, and honoring my true self. I wasn't sure whether I'd do a kind of a deeper dive into my experience of the culture of Kanaka Maoli, the Hawaiian people. And I now know I've been the recipient because I am a guest here, right? I'm a guest of Kanaka Maoli. I'm a guest of the Hawaiian kingdom. I consciously chose to kind of learn the cultural aspects of these islands. There's 8 of them, of these islands, and of course, from some really amazing Kanaka Maoli Hawaiian people. How could I not? How can I not be open to absorbing this ancient wisdom? How could I not be open to these gifts that are given with such aloha and with such reverence? I'm really proud to have made the decision to say yes to the gift of this back in grade 1, and informally by saying yes to being on Maui in 2009, and then finally through an amazing conversation about what we'd want marriage to be, both Adam and I saying yes to each other in terms of marriage, and then creating a life here, and then also being able to create a life in Vancouver, British Columbia. All of it feels to me, and not to suggest for a moment that the energy in Vancouver, particularly from an Indigenous perspective, is not strong. I know it less than I know Indigenous Hawaiian culture. Both are amazing, and both I'm graced to be humbled by, to be taught by, and be reverent to. This path to Hawaii continues today. Right, I'm sitting here today. surrounded by this immense energy here, which is extraordinary. There's an expression that what is going on today is called a Hawaiian Renaissance. This notion, like many indigenous in the world, to reclaim, right, their islands. These were stolen 131 years ago by the United States. And this Renaissance is a bit of a mirror for me in relation to the Renaissance I've created in my life, right? To walk awake, to walk with Aloha, to say yes to love, to acknowledge the privilege I have, and to gather around me, like my grade 5 teacher said, Thomas, gather around you people that are different than the Dolans, to gather around me amazing neighbors, amazing friends, wise people that I bump into, and I choose to be listening to because of that intelligence for the islands that they hold, that's been passed to them, right? All word of mouth, which I think is amazing. I could wax on eloquently about the gifts of this island, but most importantly, I want to express gratitude. Gratitude for being the recipient of those gifts, gratitude for being a guest on these islands, and gratitude to me for being able to integrate all of them into the life that I have now, right, with my amazing husband, and the privilege of actually being here. I now know that in this lifetime, perhaps I came through James and Dorothy, my father and my mother, came through them kind of in a body of work that, I'm trying to think of her name. She's a medical intuitive, Carolyn Mace. There we go. Carolyn Mace postulates that we are born into a sacred contract. This notion of having to learn something in this lifetime, and we come through two people to do that. And my parents, James and Dorothy. I believe I came through them to heal a desire to be acknowledged in my lifetime. And of course, I've shared with you before, I acknowledge as many people as I can. And what returns to me, not because I do that, but what returns to me is this acknowledgement. So I've healed that, and that has all been enmeshed in this journey to say yes to, right, this destination that I live in today, called Honolulu, and grace to live in this kingdom of Hawaii.